welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Corinne. So today we're gonna have so much fun making one of the most traditional Haitian dishes you can think of, soup Joumou. Squash. Today we're using butternut squash. I broke down all the ingredients for you and we're gonna take it step by step. I'll show you how to make it and we're gonna enjoy it together. So let's get started. So this is all you'll need to make your soup. Oil, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of épices. This is my épices, which we're going to use a number of times throughout this video. I'm going to link the recipe to this below. You'll also need 2 white russet potatoes peeled and cut into chunks. Here I have it in some water to prevent it from browning. You'll also need 3 medium carrots peeled and sliced, 3 radishes cut into chunks, 2 turnips cut into chunks, 2 scallions. I'm only using the bottom part because it has the most flavor. Half a pound of cabbage. I peeled the leaves and cut them into chunks, and about 2 to 3 celery stalks diced. You'll also need 1 cup of macaroni, a quarter box of spaghetti, 1 bouquet garni, which is some parsley and thyme. You'll also need 1 tablespoon of butter, half a maggi cube, and about 4 cloves. Now this is for the soup. To make the meat, we'll start by cleaning it. Here I have 1 pound of beef cubes. And here I have 6 tablespoons of vinegar. I'm going to use 4 tablespoons to clean the meat. And the remaining 2 tablespoons we're going to use to marinate it, along with 1 habanero pepper, which we're going to mash. We're going to mix that with 2 tablespoons of our épices again, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, half a maggi cube, and the juice of half of 1 lime.
To cook the meat, you'll also need 1 bouquet garni, half a green bell pepper, 1 serrano pepper, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste and butter, salt and pepper, and some oil.
So this is all you'll need to make your soup Joumou. Now we're ready to get started. Now that my pot of water is boiling, I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of épices. I'm gonna mix that in, and now I can add my butternut squash. Now I'm just gonna stir the pot of water with the butternut squash, cover that, lower the flame, and let that cook until it's fork tender, so for about an hour. I'm gonna set this bowl aside with a strainer because we're gonna use that to strain the butternut squash after we've blended it. Now we can move on to our meat. I'm gonna start by cleaning the meat, so I'm gonna add in about 4 tablespoons of vinegar and leave 2 tablespoons in the bowl. Stir that in. Now you just want to rub the meat with the vinegar. Make sure you clean it. So I just like to take 2 pieces of beef at a time and just rub it together. Now once you're done rubbing your beef cubes and cleaning it, we can rinse it under running cold water and then we'll marinate it. Now that my beef is nice and clean, we can make the marinade. So I'm gonna start by mashing 1 habanero pepper. Once I've mashed my habanero pepper, I'm gonna add in the juice of half a lime, my 2 tablespoons of vinegar, half a maggi cube, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and my 2 tablespoons of épices. Just gonna stir that all in. Pour it on top of my beef. Okay, now once you're done mixing in the beef with the marinade, you can set that aside for about 30 minutes.
After marinating the meat, you can add it to a large pot on very low flame, cover it, and let it cook for about an hour.
Okay, so now our squash is fork tender, so we're ready to blend. I'm gonna strain the squash into the blender and then use about 1.5 cups of the water to blend. I'm gonna save about 3 cups of the water and set it to the side to use while we cook the soup in case I want to thin it out a little bit. Whenever you're blending something hot, you don't want to cover it completely. You want some of the heat to be able to come out, otherwise it's just going to be a big explosive mess. So I just gradually pulse the squash. Now once we're done blending, we can strain that into a large bowl and use some of the leftover squash water to kind of run through the strainer again. Okay, now that our squash is blended and smooth, we're going to return it to the large pot. So now we're going to add in our celery, carrots, radish, turnips, scallions, potatoes, bouquet garni, half of the maggi cube, our 4 cloves, and 1 tablespoon of butter.
As your meat is cooking on a very low flame, you may need to add about 1/4 to half a cup of water in it to prevent it from drying out. When my potatoes are fork tender, so about 30 minutes into the cooking process, I remove them from the soup and set it aside to prevent it from overcooking.
Okay, so now our vegetables are almost cooked. Now we're gonna add in our pasta and our cabbage leaves.
At that point, I also add the remaining butternut squash water to the soup.
Okay, now that our meat is nice and tender, I'm gonna remove it from the liquid, and then we're gonna give it a bit of color.
About an hour into the cooking process, I'm almost ready to add the meat to my soup. Once I've given my meat a bit of color, I'm returning the meat water to it, along with my peppers, my bouquet garni, some butter, and some salt and pepper. Now I'm just going to cook that on medium heat for about 10 minutes or until the sauce thickens. 10 minutes later, I've finally added my meat to my soup.
So what I have here is half of a butternut squash that I roasted. I added some salt and oil to it. I roasted it on 450 for about 40 minutes until it was nice and tender. Make sure you cover it with foil so it doesn't burn and it just gets nice and soft. So I like to take things one step further. So instead of a regular bowl, I want to do a butternut squash bowl, I guess. So what we're gonna do now that it's nice and tender, we're gonna remove the insides and leave some room for our soup. So this is our butternut squash bowl. And here I have my soup. Just scoop it in. Okay, so here it is. Our beautiful soup Joumou in a butternut squash bowl. Okay guys, so now we're ready to dive into our soup Joumou. It's the perfect consistency. I like it to be on the thicker side. I don't like when it's too runny. It's also, the longer you let it reduce, the more flavor it has. So this is the perfect consistency for me. Okay, so let's try. Oh my god. This recipe is amazing. Once you try this, if you've never had it before, you'll understand why every Sunday this soup is literally a must in a Haitian household. Amazing. It's even better when you squeeze some lime juice and you just mix it in. Wow. the beef is nice and tender. The more patient you are with it in the cooking process, the better it'll be. Don't rush it, just give it time. It takes about an hour and 10 minutes. Wow. Guys, look at how tender. Look at how tender the beef is. Guys, you're gonna want to try this. I haven't had soup Joumou in at least 6 months, and it's been way too long. Guys, please like and subscribe if you like this video. Hit the bell to get notified when I post new recipes. As you can see, you're gonna want to, because every week we're back making new and exciting stuff, and I can't wait for the next one. I'll see you guys next time.